Illinois Congressman Adam Kinzinger is on the Foreign Affairs Committee. He's also a pilot in the Air National Guard. Sir, how are you? And good morning and welcome back here.
Hey, I'm great, and thanks for having me.
What is your sense of what the strategy is now? By the way, we're waiting for John Kerry to pop up in Baghdad. When there are headlines, we're going to go there. In the meantime, answer the question on strategy, sir.
I don't think there is a strategy. I mean, look, the idea of saying we're going to play whack-a-mole. Whack-a-mole implies that a mole pops up, and then it goes down and pops up somewhere else. And what we have now is actually moles popping up all over the place. And instead of taking any of them down, we're just watching this, and we've paralyzed ourselves to inaction. That's what this president's really good at, is thinking, discussing, but not acting. In fact, I can't think of a single foreign policy success, frankly, since he killed bin Laden. So we need an overall strategy. And talking brass tacks, it is to halt the momentum of ISIS, I think, through airstrikes and then working a political reconciliation in Iraq, but not taking off limits ISIS camps in Syria that's really feeding this insurgency into Iraq.
So if that's what your strategy is, then you're calling for airstrikes immediately in the western part of Iraq and also then in Syria. Did I hear you right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, ISIS is a very bad organization, and they don't see state lines. In fact, they're trying to move their organization into other countries as well, too. You'll see Jordan, you'll see Lebanon on that list. And so we can't look at, lines and say, well, okay, then we have to stick to just Iraq, when they're actually feeding off in Syria. Actually taking down ISIS camps in Syria as well will help the Free Syrian Army, who's opposing Assad, who's diverted resources from fighting Assad into ISIS lately. And so I think it's the right thing to do, halt the momentum. We do have to figure the political strategy in Iraq, but we can't wait till they do it to move on ISIS.
All right, now let's get back to the political talk in a moment here. But if you were even be successful against these Sunni terrorists, they'd pop up in Yemen. They'd pop up in Libya. And now you're back to whack-a-mole, and that's the president's point.
Well, my argument is it's not whack-a-mole, because whack-a-mole implies that a terrorist group pops up and then goes away and then pops up somewhere else. These are actually continuing to pop up. The war on terror, unfortunately, is going to be a long-term battle that we have to fight. I wish I could wave a magic wand and wish all this stuff away. It'd be great, but we don't. And so we have to confront the reality of these guys want to kill us, and they also want to do a lot of damage to our allies. We either handle it or we just back away and say it's too overwhelming. We have the fiercest, best, most effective military in the world. I think it's fully capable of doing what needs to be done, and we can work the political solutions around that too.
Dianne Feinstein, the Iraqi state as a state is in danger. Can we prevent Iraq from falling apart, or at least dividing itself into three?
I think that outcome's uncertain. Yeah, I think we have to prevent it from falling apart, because I think the preservation of the Iraqi state is like the least bad option, and then you can figure out the politics there. But we need to take a lesson from what's going on as well, because in 2 years, the president has announced that all the troops are going to come home from Afghanistan, and we are going to see what's happening in Iraq happen in Afghanistan, except right next to them on the border is Pakistan with like 100 nukes that can go out. So this is a very serious situation, and we ought to take the opportunity to learn. But I agree with Senator Feinstein. I think the preservation of the Iraqi state is like our best hope, but it's not a guaranteed outcome.
You mentioned nukes. Dick Cheney was on ABC. The first thing we have to do is recognize we've got a hell of a problem, and it's not just in Iraq. He went on to say the proliferation of nuclear capability and the possibility it falls into the hands of terrorists is not being addressed at all. When you look at the border towns that have now fallen to these Sunni terrorists, they've got the ability to move from Iraq into Syria and back again, possibly from Iraq into Jordan, perhaps, and back again.
Yeah, I mean, these are significant, and again, that's why I think our fight can't be limited to just Iraq or whatever. We have to take the organization and target it in total. Now, we can't necessarily destroy them only with airstrikes, but I think we can halt their momentum and make an effort. I can't guarantee success here. I wish I could through whatever, but this is our best option of a whole bunch of bad scenarios. And again, we're watching in Iraq right now and in the Middle East, we are watching the worst case scenario develop. The only thing that could make it worse is the introduction of WMDs, which is not all that unlikely at some point.
Adam Kinzinger, thank you for your time.
You bet. Thank you.
Appreciate you having me back here.
You bet.
A stunning